So, who are all those people on the AV team at your show? Well, let's get into it.
Welcome to the Event Pro Show, your ultimate guide to the world of corporate events. Whether you're a corporate event planner, experiential marketing pro, producer, technician, or anyone involved in creating exceptional events, this podcast is your go-to resource for valuable insights, expert tips, and inspiring stories from the industry's leading professionals.
Well, thank you for joining us on the Event Pro Show. I am your host, Seth Macchi. I'm the CEO of LEMG, an event production company based in Charlotte, North Carolina. We produce events all over the country, and our primary clients are event planners, whether they are in large organizations or whether they're independent and they work for themselves. We provide AV services for corporate events. And because of this, we wanted to put together a 5-part series to help event planners work better with their AV partners. And you are joining us in part 5 of a series called The AV Advantage. If you missed parts 1 through 4, don't worry. You can go to theeventproshow.com or wherever you get your podcasts and find those first 4 episodes. But I'm going to go through what they were. Episode 1, we talked about design, how you can design events better. From an AV perspective. Episode 2, we talked about how to make your budget go farther by using time as a budget saver as far as AV is concerned. Episode 3 talked about building better RFPs so that you can look at proposals kind of in more of an apples to apples comparison and hopefully save your team a lot of time. Episode 4, we went through what happens after the contracting. Like you contracted with an AV provider, you selected them, then what? And I walked you through what to expect and how that process works. The final episode, I want to wrap up with the actual showtime. So what's going on behind the scenes? Maybe peek behind the curtain and talk about who that crew is on site. There's a lot of people wearing possibly, black shirts. They're pretty quiet, subdued people behind the drape or behind the screens, doing things at glowing screens. What are those people doing? Well, I want to walk through that a little bit. But first, let's talk what happens when you get your AV delivered to the venue. So first of all, loading dock, you're dumping all the gear on the loading dock. That's what's happening on load in day. And they're moving all that gear to the ballroom or the venue. That process typically has an additional amount of crew. So what you'll have is you'll have the person leading the event. We call them a project manager at LEMG. It could be a production manager with another company, but that type of a title. The technicians that are actually going to be operating the event, they're usually helping. And then we bring in an extra group of load-in labor. That can either be local IATSE stagehands, a local union, or it could be an independent company that provides those type of services for event labor, so loading in and loading out. And that's just additional hands to help push all of that equipment into the space and get it set up as quickly as possible. And they usually go away after setup is done, that they've done their job, and the technicians start doing all the detailed setup. And so from that point, the room starts turning into the render or the design that was pitched to you during the sales process. And hopefully it looks exactly like what you were thinking. Once that's all set up, there's all sorts of people that you can see on your proposal, like you see the names of their positions, and but when they're on site, who are these people? So let's talk about that. Typically, you have 2 zones in a normal event. You have front of house. Front of house is that area where it can be draped off. There's usually an audio console, maybe a lighting console. It's the most seen technical position. You even see them at concerts. They're out in the room with the audience. So that's the front of house area. Usually at that area, like I said, there's an audio engineer. That would be your A1. They're actually taking all the signals into their audio console and they're mixing the show to sound good to everybody in the audience. Maybe everybody in the streaming world records, but they're making sure that everything comes together and sounds good. You typically have a lighting director or L1 out at front of house as well with a lighting console. Same thing. All those lights that are in the ceiling and on the ground, they are taking all of those elements and turning them into different looks that are appropriate for different sections of the event. And so, there might be a walk-in look and then a show opener look and then a video roll look and then back to normal stage level look. And they're making sure that the lights look great. If there's recording, video recording, they make sure that the stage is evenly lit so that it looks great on camera. They're a very important component to the event as well. And often you have a TD, a technical director, out at front of house. Some people call them a show caller. There's different names for them, but they're often on comm. Everybody on crew has comm. They can talk to each other, and they're calling the show. So they're literally talking to everybody that has a role on the technical team and telling them what their next job is coming up. So, get ready, guys. We're going to do a video roll here in 3, 2, 1, roll video, lights down, audio, bring up, video roll 1 or whatever. They're doing this on comm. You're not hearing it as an attendee, but they're the one keeping the show moving forward on schedule according to the run of show document that you probably have created with them. If we go backstage behind the curtain, behind the screens, there's usually a whole other area back there. And so backstage, you have other additional video engineers. So some of those video engineers might be playing those videos off of computers. Another one might be dealing with just PowerPoint presentations from your executives to make sure that that's happening. You might have video engineers that are dealing with cameras and switching between cameras to make sure they look good and the color is good on those cameras. You might have an additional person, a camera director, talking to camera operators in the room and telling them what type of shots that they want, who is actually alive right now, those types of things. So that's your backstage crew. Additional crew back there might be an additional lighting, an ME or master electrician, or an LED technician or two that help build the LED surface, the video surface, but are there just to manage, make sure things are working well. And there can be other various people backstage, like an A2. What is an A2? Well, an A1 is out front mixing audio. An A2, it's very important to corporate events because often you have things like panels and different people are moving on and off the stage with microphones. Well, every one of those doesn't get a unique microphone to them, and that mic never gets used again. You're cycling microphones through different presenters on stage. So someone's back there miking them up, making sure it looks nice. So that's often a person that has good communication skills, able to kind of talk to everybody and get everything coordinated backstage. If you have a lot of movement in your run of show as far as people on and off a stage, you might consider a stage manager. And this position to me is the most similar to a theatrical environment where they're making sure actors are going on and off at the right time. Well, the same thing with a complex corporate event, you would have a stage manager that is making sure that people are showing up at the right time. If you have green rooms for executives and guests to sit in, they're going and getting them and make sure they're positioned, ready to go on stage. These are some of the roles going on all over the room when you have a corporate event. And these are some of the roles that, when you see a proposal, they're just like numbers and letters, A1, V1, LED tech, but that's what they're doing to make this whole show happen. These people are important to keep the show working. Another component, though, that I wanted to quickly talk about are rehearsals. If you're not utilizing rehearsals in your corporate events, you should very much consider doing so, building in at least maybe a half day before to walk your executives through an event and get them prepared of just the space, walking through timing, where things are, what to expect. This can be the difference between a kind of sketchy show and one that's full of speakers with confidence. And it changes the whole atmosphere of the room when you do rehearsals well. Now, who would lead that? Typically a technical director or a technical director and stage manager would work during a rehearsal period to walk people through either full rehearsals or just kind of a tech facts type of rehearsal where you're looking at, you have your presenters walk on stage, hear the mic turned on, look at where their presentations are going to be, kind of look where everybody is, what am I looking at, how does the clicker slide advancer work, those type of things. So one or the other. But it really can be something that makes or breaks an event. If you have a very complex multi-day show, I recommend a day or two of rehearsals before, and a good technical director can walk through, have rehearsals scheduled for all components, all speaking components of a corporate event. It's very important to add that component if you're looking to smooth out how the actual execution of an event works. The last thing I want to mention is, what does flawless execution actually mean? Well, flawless execution, it doesn't mean perfection. We're in the live events business. And so there will always be changes. Nothing is ever perfect. But our goal is always to get as close to perfect as we can. And I hope that the last 5 episodes gave you some tools and tricks, tips to help you plan better events with your AV partner so that you can get as close to flawless execution as possible and keep growing as an event professional. We at LEMG would love to be your AV provider. You can go to lemg.live to check us out, or you can always DM me on LinkedIn. I'm Seth Macchi, Macchi. If you need to check out the previous episodes of the Event Pro Show, you can go to theeventproshow.com or go to your favorite place to listen to podcasts. We put out a podcast every week. Every other week, I'm introducing you to a new guest that is somehow related to corporate events. And then the alternate week, I'm giving more detailed information about AV providers and instruction for event planners. Thank you for spending your time with us, and we will see you on the next one. The Event Pro Show is a production of LEMG, video by Nick Barrett, audio and post-production by Prince Thompson. You can learn more about us at lemg.live.